and whatever French troops could be found. They were met by a Japanese guard of honor.
It was an experience I shall never forget, because Saigon is like London. It's up a river. I think it's a Mekong River. We must have been travelling for about 3 hours up the river, and suddenly it all opened out. The jungle was left behind, and there was this splendid vista of a white city shining in the sun, tarmac roads, and to our astonishment, American cars being driven by Japanese chauffeurs with Japanese officers sitting in the back, complete with swords. We couldn't believe it. They were the same people that we'd been fighting a few weeks before.
By now, the Japanese forces had been integrated with the British, operating joint patrols in Saigon and the surrounding countryside. Armed Japanese convoys under Japanese officers were bringing food into Saigon from as far away as Phnom Penh in Cambodia up the Mekong River.
I found that I was in charge of the Japanese Yamagishi battalion, so-called because that was the name of the commanding officer. And I was in the leading truck, and on the way to the start line, we were ambushed. And so tense and taut was I that I jumped out to take immediate action with my 4 Gurkha gunmen behind me, rather than letting the Japanese deploy as I should have done. And I stood looking rather vaguely around, seeing what was happening, and the interpreter came up with the Japanese-English dictionary in one hand and his pith helmet in the other, and he bowed and said, "Captain Yamagishi sends his respects, and would you respectfully adopt the prone position?"
Early in October, General Leclerc reached Saigon. He was welcomed at the airport by General Gracie. Using naval vessels to move soldiers to Saigon, the French build-up began. There was wild rejoicing among the resident French. Many of these people had collaborated with the Japanese for the past 3.5 years of war. From now on, the war in Indochina took on the murderous pattern that would become so familiar in the next 28 years, the brutal succession of ambush and guerrilla attacks, of terrorism and atrocities.
We had a troop, I think it was Charlie troop, out in support of a battalion of what the French call their colonial troops. They wore an anchor on the camp. Ragtag mob, pure amateurs, and they had been having trouble getting out of Saigon, going north, because the night before, a party of Annamites, armed with, I think, about 2 machine guns and rifles, had taken over a planter's house about 8 miles north of Saigon on the edge of the plantation. They'd murdered the family, cut the throats, man, wife and children, and they were dug in underneath the building, which was built up because of the monsoon and so on, about 2 or 3 feet from the ground, and had caused the French quite a lot of trouble. We were to use 1 gun and to bombard the building they were underneath and bring it down. The whole building had come down in a pile of rubble. Whistles were blown then and orders shouted, and in went the French. And they came back dragging a poor old Annamite, and I say poor old because he must have been well over 50. He was terrified. They brought him up to their battalion headquarters, which was just to our right on the crossroads, and they began slapping his face, treading on his feet, kicking him, questioning him. But what made it, to us, shocking, and we'd never seen this before. We'd seen some things in Burma, but we'd never seen this before. They hadn't a rope, but someone looked around and found a piece of Don 8 telephone cable. You know, that is the thin Don 8 cable. This was thrown over a branch of a tree and a loop put round the old man's neck. Again, Algie ran across and tried to stop them. Came back, said to me, "We're pulling out, Sergeant Major. Cease firing, limber up, I'm off. I will not be witness to cold-blooded murder."